Hey guys, it's Owen from Wrestling Inc. back with another wrestling news roundup. Without any further ado, let's get into today's biggest stories in the world of professional wrestling. News on Cody Rhodes WWE merchandise sales. Cody Rhodes is reportedly a top merchandise mover for WWE already. We noted how WWE Shop released 3 t-shirts for Rhodes this past weekend to mark his return at WrestleMania Saturday, where he defeated Seth Rollins. Rhodes noted on Instagram how it was, quote, wonderful to collaborate with WWE Senior Vice President Bruce Pritchard and Joe from WWE Creative Services, possibly former Associate Creative Director and current Senior Creative Director of Global Licensing Joe Gaiano, on the t-shirt designs. In an update, WWE sold out of all Rhodes t-shirts that were put on sale during WrestleMania weekend, according to PW Insider. This goes for AT&T Stadium and the Superstore Access, where Rhodes was the mystery panel guest on Saturday night. Tony Khan reveals Samoa Joe's AEW debut match, another Owen Hart qualifier set for Dynamite. Samoa Joe will make his AEW in-ring debut in a qualifier for the Owen Hart Foundation Men's Tournament. AEW President, CEO, General Manager, and Head of Creative Tony Khan took to Twitter and announced Joe vs. Max Caster for tonight's AEW Dynamite from Boston. This will be the first qualifying match for the men's tournament. Quote, arriving last week at Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor, Samoa Joe is signed with AEW and has said that he plans to dominate. Samoa Joe debuts in AEW vs. Max Caster in an Owen Hart Foundation Men's Tournament qualifier bout on AEW Dynamite Live. Khan has also announced that the third qualifier for the Owen Hart Foundation Women's Tournament will be held on Dynamite with Hikaru Shida vs. Julia Hart. Quote, tomorrow on Wednesday Night Dynamite is a huge night of pro wrestling on TBS, and the Owen Hart Foundation Women's Tournament qualifiers continue live on AEW Dynamite at 8 p.m. with Hikaru Shida vs. Julia Hart. Last week's AEW Dynamite saw Toni Storm debut with a qualifier victory over the Bunny. Last week's AEW Rampage then featured Jamie Hayter defeating Sky Blue to be the second women's wrestler to qualify for the tournament. As noted, Joe made his surprise return to Ring of Honor at the end of Friday's Supercard of Honor event. The main event saw Jonathan Gresham defeat Bandito to become the undisputed Ring of Honor World Champion, but Gresham and Lee Moriarty were attacked by Sonjay Dutt and Jay Lethal after the bout. Lethal, who turned on longtime friend Matt Sydal earlier on in the night after defeating Moriarty, challenged Gresham to an immediate title match, but Gresham denied because of his earlier actions. This led to Dutt hitting Gresham and Gresham getting beat down. Moriarty tried to help Gresham, but he failed, and that's when Joe came out. Joe faced off with Lethal and then choked Dutt out. Khan announced that Joe is, quote, all elite after Supercard of Honor, and later confirmed that he is signed to both AEW and Ring of Honor. WWE Raw after WrestleMania draws best viewership in more than 1 year. Monday's live post-WrestleMania 38 edition of WWE Raw drew an average of 2.101 million viewers on the USA Network, according to Nielsen via Showbuzz Daily. This is up 6.16% from last week's 1.979 million viewers. Monday's Raw after WrestleMania drew a 0.63 rating in the 18 to 49 key demographic. This is up 14.54% from last week's 0.55 key demo rating. To compare to Raw after WrestleMania episodes, the post-WrestleMania 38 viewership was up 3.7% from the 2.026 million viewers that the post-WrestleMania 37 episode drew on April 12 last year. The post-WrestleMania 38 key demo rating is down 7.35% from the 0.68 key demo rating that the post-WrestleMania 37 episode drew. Raw ranked number 6 for the night in the cable top 150 with the 0.63 rating in the key 18 to 49 demographic. This is largely due to airings of the NCAA Basketball Championship game on TBS, TNT, and True TV. Raw ranked number 13 for the night in terms of viewership on cable, behind North Carolina vs. Kansas NCAA game on TBS and the North Carolina vs. Kansas NCAA game on TNT. Monday's Raw after WrestleMania drew strong numbers despite the NCAA games dominating cable. Raw drew the highest total audience since January 4, 2021 for the Legends Night episode, and the highest key demo rating since the post-SummerSlam episode on August 23. This week's Raw viewership was up 6.16% from last week's episode, episode, while the key demo rating was up 14.54% from last week. Monday's Raw viewership was up 23.52% from the same week in 2021, while the 18 to 49 key demo rating was up 21.15% from the same week also. Last year's episode was not the post-WrestleMania episode. Rick Steiner abducted in new WWE NXT storyline. 2022 WWE Hall of Famer Rick Steiner has been abducted by Joe Gacy and Haaland. The main event of last night's post-Stand and Deliver edition of NXT 2.0 saw new NXT champion Bron Breakker retain his title over Gunther. The episode also featured various backstage vignettes from Gacy and Haaland that were shown throughout the show, with Gacy talking about family and chaos. After the main event victory, Breakker stood tall with the NXT championship as the show was about to go off the air. Steiner suddenly appeared on the big screen and called him by his name, Bronson. Rick congratulated Bron on his victory and making him proud. The camera then zoomed out and we saw Rick being held in a cage tied up. Bron looked on as Gacy then appeared and said he had been telling Bron how family was everything. Haaland came walking around the cage with a chain in his hands. Gacy then said, "We'll see if they can teach this old dog some new tricks." Haaland then smacked the cage with his chain as Gacy covered the camera with his hand, and NXT faded to black and went off the air. There's no word on what is next for the new Steiner-Gacy storyline, but it looks like Haaland or Gacy will end up challenging Breakker for the NXT championship, perhaps with Steiner's safety on the line in a dog-faced gremlin in a cage bout. Alexa Bliss was reportedly not in Dallas for WrestleMania weekend events. Alexa Bliss was not in Dallas, Texas for any of the WrestleMania weekend events, according to PW Insider. Typically, WWE brings in the entire roster for WrestleMania weekend, including the talent not featured on the WrestleMania card. The superstars not scheduled to wrestle typically make appearances for the company at media events and/or autograph signings. Others are also brought in to attend the WWE Hall of Fame ceremony and hang out backstage during the events. As can be seen on social media, there was an Alexa's Playground set and cutout of Bliss displayed at this year's WrestleMania Access. However, Bliss was not there to meet and greet with fans. In late February, Bliss shared photos from a bachelorette party ahead of her impending wedding to Ryan Cabrera. Earlier this week, Bliss revealed her big day is fast approaching. It's possible Bliss is taking time away from WWE to prepare for her marriage. Bliss last appeared on WWE television at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, where she lost to Bianca Belair in the 6-woman Elimination Chamber match. Since then, Bliss has insinuated several times that WWE has been keeping her off of television. On March 1, she wrote, quote, "Yeah, I don't know," in response to a fan asking why she was not booked for the Raw after the Chamber show. Later in March, Bliss tweeted, quote, "I'll just wait here, I guess." Cody Rhodes reveals who knew he had re-signed with WWE. In an interview with The Ringer shortly after his triumphant WWE return at WrestleMania 38, Cody Rhodes was asked the first person he called after inking a WWE contract a few weeks ago. Quote, "Nobody," Rhodes responded. The real ones, the OGs, knew. The one guy who had a hard time not knowing was Kevin Owens. I just wanted to keep it quiet, keep it on the low. I didn't even tell Randy Orton. I haven't seen Randy, I heard he's a really good guy. It blows my mind. This guy threw a dynamite stick in a lobby in Mexico the first week I met him. Now he's a family man? What the hell are we doing? I didn't tell anyone, I kept it very limited. Only Brandy knew, my mom knew, maybe a few others. My cousin works here as a timekeeper and even he didn't know. It was the best kept secret in wrestling, but I really wanted to keep everything low key. WrestleMania is the one time you don't know what's happening and won't know until you see it. Like when Bryan Danielson won the title at WrestleMania 30, you knew he was going to, but had to wait until the end of the night to see it. When asked why his WWE comeback match happened against Seth Rollins, Rhodes felt a WrestleMania showdown against Rollins was ordained for years. Quote, "There's nobody else it could have been," Cody Rhodes said. Seth walked into the ring at a live event in Michigan. It was his first match after coming out of FCW. It was against me. Then, in Dayton, Ohio, he had his first dark match on TV against me. The Shield versus Rhodes Brothers were some special matches that I blocked out of my head for some reason. It needed to be him, and here's why. This isn't a knock against Seth, but I heard so much about Dusty's kids at NXT, to the point where, what about his real kids? Again, slow learner. Maybe it took me a while to walk out there and win his respect, as he earned mine once. But this is a different guy now. He's been to the top of the mountain. It couldn't have been anybody else. It had to be him now that I think about it. So what are your thoughts on today's Wrestling News Roundup? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Be sure to like and subscribe to Wrestling Inc. and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.